Jey Uso blames Jimmy for holding him back in WWE. Jey Uso just said something about his twin brother Jimmy that has completely shattered the bloodline legacy and exposed a family betrayal so deep that even Roman Reigns is reportedly refusing to get involved because he knows this beef is going to get uglier than anything we've ever seen between family members in WWE history. What Jey revealed in a closed-door meeting with WWE management wasn't just frustration about tag team booking or creative direction. It was years of suppressed resentment, jealousy, and accusations that Jimmy has been deliberately sabotaging Jey's singles career because he's terrified of being exposed as the less talented twin. And the specific examples Jey provided of Jimmy's backstage manipulation are so damning and so petty that multiple wrestlers who heard about the meeting are now questioning everything they thought they knew about the Uso brothers' relationship. But here's what's really going to infuriate you. According to sources who were present during this explosive meeting, Jey didn't just blame Jimmy for holding him back professionally. He accused his twin brother of using their family bond and cultural heritage as weapons to guilt-trip Jey into staying in a tag team that benefits Jimmy's career while destroying Jey's potential as a main event singles star. This wasn't a wrestling angle being pitched for television. This was real family trauma spilling out in a corporate conference room, with Jey literally telling WWE executives that his own brother has been his biggest obstacle to success and that he can't reach his full potential unless the company completely separates them and ends the Usos as a team permanently. The most shocking part? Jimmy allegedly found out about this meeting through backstage gossip before WWE officials could arrange a proper mediation, and his response to learning what Jey said about him has created the most toxic and uncomfortable backstage environment since the Hart Foundation Civil War in 1997. Let me tell you exactly what Jey Uso said in that meeting, why Jimmy's reaction has made everything 10 times worse, and how this family implosion is going to change WWE forever. The meeting was originally scheduled as a routine check-in about the Usos' future booking and potential storyline directions. WWE executives wanted to discuss whether the brothers should reunite as a tag team full-time, continue working separately, or pursue some hybrid approach that allowed them to do both. Standard creative planning that happens all the time with established tag teams. But when Jey Uso sat down in that conference room, he made it immediately clear that this wasn't going to be a diplomatic discussion about creative preferences. This was going to be a complete dismantling of his partnership with Jimmy and an expose of everything he'd been holding back for years. Jey started by addressing what he called the false narrative that the Usos are equal partners who share the same goals and abilities. He told WWE officials that this narrative has been the biggest lie of his career and that he's been forced to perpetuate it to protect Jimmy's feelings and maintain their family image. Then Jey dropped the bombshell that as everyone talking, he claimed that Jimmy has consistently been the weak link in the Usos tag team, that Jey has been carrying matches and promos for years while Jimmy gets equal credit, and that every time WWE has tried to position Jey for a singles push, Jimmy has sabotaged those opportunities through backstage politics and emotional manipulation. The specific accusations Jey made were devastating and incredibly detailed, suggesting he'd been documenting Jimmy's alleged sabotage for months or even years. Jey revealed that during his singles run while Roman Reigns was building the bloodline, Jimmy had repeatedly gone to management complaining that Jey was abandoning the family and suggesting that Jey's character work was becoming too independent and threatening the bloodline's cohesion. According to Jey, these complaints were designed to make WWE officials doubt Jey's commitment and reliability as a singles competitor. But the allegations got even more personal and damaging. Jey claimed that Jimmy had actively lobbied against Jey receiving certain high-profile matches and storyline opportunities by suggesting that Jey wasn't ready, that fans wouldn't accept him without Jimmy by his side, and that pushing Jey as a single star would damage the Usos' legacy and merchandise sales. The most brutal accusation came when Jey told WWE executives that Jimmy had used their family relationship and their father Rikishi's legacy as emotional blackmail. According to Jey, anytime he expressed interest in pursuing singles opportunities, Jimmy would guilt-trip him by saying things like, "This isn't what our family is about," or "Dad would be disappointed that you're breaking up the team," or "You're choosing your ego over our bond." Jey claimed these manipulation tactics made him feel like he couldn't pursue his own career goals without betraying his family, and that Jimmy knew exactly what he was doing by weaponizing their cultural values and family loyalty to keep Jey trapped in a partnership that primarily benefited Jimmy's career. The WWE executives in the room were reportedly stunned by the depth of resentment and the specific nature of the accusations. This wasn't vague complaints about creative direction, this was detailed allegations of deliberate career sabotage by one brother against another over an extended period of time. But Jey wasn't finished destroying the Usos' brotherhood. What he said next exposed the personal insecurity and jealousy that he believes has driven Jimmy's behavior for their entire career. Jey told WWE officials that Jimmy has always known that Jey is the more talented wrestler, the better promo, and the one with genuine main event potential. According to Jey, this knowledge has created a deep insecurity in Jimmy that manifests as controlling behavior designed to ensure they remain equals in WWE's eyes even though they're not actually equal in ability. Jey provided specific examples of moments when WWE trainers or agents praised his work or suggested he had special potential, and how Jimmy would immediately become defensive, sulky, or would try to undermine those compliments by pointing out mistakes Jey had made or suggesting the praise was undeserved. The most damaging example Jey shared involved a conversation with a top WWE producer who had apparently told Jey privately that he had Shawn Michaels' potential and could be a world champion if he committed to singles competition. When Jimmy somehow found out about this conversation, he allegedly spent weeks making passive-aggressive comments about Jey getting a big head and forgetting where he came from until Jey backed off from pursuing the singles opportunities that were being presented to him. Jey's voice reportedly became emotional at this point in the meeting as he explained how many opportunities he'd sacrificed over the years to preserve his relationship with Jimmy and maintain the Usos as a unit. He talked about turning down featured matches, declining spotlight moments, and deliberately underperforming in certain situations so that Jimmy wouldn't feel overshadowed or threatened. The executives in the room realized they weren't just hearing about a tag team that had run its course, they were witnessing the complete breakdown of a relationship between brothers who had been hiding their dysfunction behind the facade of family unity for years. But the nuclear bomb that Jey dropped came when he directly addressed the comparison between himself and Jimmy in terms of their individual value to WWE. Jey told the executives that if they separated the Usos permanently and pushed both men as singles competitors, the gap in their success would be immediately obvious. He predicted that he would thrive in the main event scene while Jimmy would struggle to maintain relevance in the midcard, and that this outcome would prove everything he'd been saying about being held back by their partnership. Then Jey made a statement that has already leaked to the locker room and created massive controversy. He said that Jimmy needs the Usos more than Jey does, that Jimmy's entire WWE career is dependent on being one half of a legendary tag team, and that Jimmy knows he can't survive as a singles competitor, which is why he's so desperate to keep them together. This wasn't just a professional assessment, it was character assassination of his own twin brother in front of WWE's decision-makers. And the fact that Jey was willing to say these things about Jimmy in an official capacity showed just how far their relationship had deteriorated. The meeting ended with Jey making a formal request that WWE separate the Usos completely, give him a singles push on a different brand from Jimmy if possible, and allow him to finally pursue the main event career that he believes he's been denied because of his partnership with his brother. Now here's where the situation went from uncomfortable family drama to potential career-destroying catastrophe. Within hours of that meeting, word spread through the WWE locker room about what Jey had said. Multiple people heard fragments of the conversation or spoke to executives who were present, and soon a fairly detailed account of Jey's accusations was circulating backstage. When Jimmy Uso found out what his brother had said about him, his reaction was reportedly volcanic. Multiple wrestlers described Jimmy as being in a state of shock and rage that they'd never seen from him before. The easygoing, fun-loving personality that Jimmy is known for completely vanished, replaced by someone who felt utterly betrayed by the person he trusted most in the world. Jimmy's initial response was to try to arrange his own meeting with WWE management to defend himself and provide his side of the story. But according to sources, Jimmy's meeting didn't go the way he hoped because he couldn't effectively refute most of Jey's specific accusations. He admitted that he had expressed concerns about Jey pursuing singles opportunities, but he claimed his motivations were about protecting the Usos' legacy and maintaining their family bond rather than sabotaging Jey's career out of jealousy. The problem for Jimmy was that his explanation sounded exactly like the kind of emotional manipulation and guilt-tripping that Jey had accused him of using. Even if Jimmy's intentions were genuine and came from a place of wanting to preserve their partnership, the effect was the same. Jey felt controlled and held back from pursuing his full potential. Jimmy's defense also fell apart when executives asked him directly whether he believed Jey could be a successful singles main event star. Jimmy's hesitation and qualified answer, something along the lines of maybe with the right booking and support, revealed that he did have doubts about Jey's abilities that aligned with what Jey had accused him of expressing privately. By the end of Jimmy's meeting, WWE officials had a much clearer picture of the Usos' dysfunction, and it wasn't pretty. They saw two brothers who had completely different perceptions of their partnership, their individual abilities, and what they meant to each other's careers. More importantly, they saw that this relationship had become so toxic that keeping them together was no longer viable from either a creative or human resources perspective. But Jimmy's response to feeling betrayed by Jey didn't end with that management meeting. What he did next escalated the situation from private family drama to public controversy that has divided the entire WWE locker room. Jimmy allegedly started reaching out to other wrestlers, particularly those in tag teams or those with family members in WWE, trying to build support for his perspective and position Jey as disloyal and selfish for wanting to break up the Usos. Jimmy framed Jey's desire for single success as putting individual ambition above family loyalty, and he suggested that Jey had been manipulated by people outside the family who were filling his head with unrealistic expectations about his singles potential. This campaign to turn locker room opinion against Jey backfired spectacularly. Instead of generating sympathy for Jimmy, it made him look like he was trying to control Jey's career decisions and validate Jey's accusations about emotional manipulation. Several wrestlers who heard Jimmy's complaints reportedly told him directly that Jey had every right to pursue singles opportunities and that trying to guilt-trip him into staying in a tag team was exactly the kind of behavior Jey had accused him of. The most damaging moment came when Jimmy allegedly confronted Jey directly in catering, and their argument became heated enough that other wrestlers had to intervene before it became physical. Multiple witnesses reported that Jimmy accused Jey of betraying the family and spitting on our father's legacy, while Jey fired back that Jimmy was jealous and couldn't handle not being the center of attention anymore. The argument exposed the depth of resentment on both sides and confirmed for everyone watching that the Usos' brotherhood was damaged potentially beyond repair. These weren't just creative differences or professional disagreements, this was real family trauma playing out in front of their coworkers. The aftermath of this public confrontation has created one of the most uncomfortable locker room environments WWE has experienced in years. Wrestlers are being forced to choose sides between two brothers who have both been well-liked and respected members of the roster for over a decade. Some support Jey's right to pursue singles success and think Jimmy has been holding him back. Others sympathize with Jimmy's position and think Jey is being selfish and ungrateful for the success they achieved together. Even Roman Reigns, who could theoretically mediate as their cousin and tribal chief, has reportedly declined to get involved because he recognizes that this conflict goes deeper than anything he can resolve through family hierarchy or backstage politics. Roman allegedly told both brothers that they need to work this out themselves and that he won't take sides in their dispute. This refusal by Roman to intervene has been interpreted by some as tacit support for Jey, since Roman has always seemed to have a closer working relationship with Jey during the Bloodline era. But others think Roman is just being smart by avoiding a no-win situation where taking either side would damage his relationship with one of his cousins permanently. The Anoa'i family as a whole is reportedly devastated by this public conflict between Jey and Jimmy. Multiple family members have tried to arrange reconciliation meetings or family discussions to address the issues, but both brothers have so far refused to participate in any mediation that involves family members. Jey apparently feels that bringing family into the discussion would just result in more pressure to sacrifice his career goals to maintain family harmony, while Jimmy feels that excluding family from the conversation is itself a betrayal of their cultural values. Now here's the question that's going to reveal everything about how you view family, loyalty, and career ambition in professional wrestling. Do you think Jey Uso is justified in blaming Jimmy for holding him back and demanding that WWE separate them permanently, or is he being selfish and ungrateful for the success they achieved together as the Usos? Your answer to that question probably depends on your own values about individual ambition versus family loyalty, and whether you think personal success is more important than maintaining relationships with people who helped you get to where you are. The reality is that both brothers have valid perspectives on this situation, and that's what makes it so complicated and painful. Jey genuinely feels like he's been held back from reaching his full potential and that Jimmy's insecurity has been the primary obstacle to his single success. Jimmy genuinely feels like Jey is abandoning their partnership and family legacy for selfish reasons and that Jey underestimates how much Jimmy contributed to their success as a team. These competing perspectives can both be true simultaneously, which means there's no clear hero or villain in this story, just two brothers who have grown apart and developed irreconcilable differences about their careers and their relationship. What makes this situation even more tragic is that the Usos' success as a tag team was built on the genuine chemistry and connection they had as brothers. That authentic bond is what made them one of the greatest tag teams in WWE history. But that same closeness is what makes their current conflict so devastating, because they know each other well enough to hurt each other in ways that outsiders never could. The wrestling industry has seen tag teams break up before, and we've seen family members feud both on screen and behind the scenes. But what's happening between Jey and Jimmy Uso feels different because of how personal the accusations are and how publicly the breakdown has occurred. This isn't a worked angle that will lead to an emotional reunion down the road, this is legitimate family trauma that might permanently alter their relationship regardless of how WWE books their future interactions. WWE is now facing an incredibly difficult decision about how to handle the Usos moving forward. Do they grant Jey's request and separate the brothers completely, potentially validating his accusations that Jimmy held him back? Do they try to keep them together and hope they can work through their issues, risking more public confrontations and toxic locker room dynamics? Or do they try some middle ground approach that's unlikely to satisfy either brother? Whatever decision WWE makes will have massive implications not just for Jey and Jimmy's careers, but for the entire Bloodline legacy and the Anoa'i family's role in WWE going forward. The company has built so much of their recent success on the strength and unity of this family, and watching it implode over personal conflicts threatens to undermine years of storytelling and character development. There's also the very real possibility that this conflict becomes so toxic that one or both brothers eventually decides to leave WWE entirely rather than continuing to work in an environment where they're constantly reminded of their broken relationship. If that happens, WWE loses not just one of their greatest tag teams, but potentially two talented performers who could have been main event singles stars if the situation had been handled differently. Tell me in the comments, is Jey Uso right to blame Jimmy for holding him back, or is Jimmy justified in feeling betrayed by Jey's accusations and desire to break up the Usos? And do you think their relationship can ever be repaired, or is this family bond broken forever? And here's the deeper question that gets to the heart of this entire situation: should family members in WWE be required to work together and support each other's careers even when it means sacrificing their own individual ambitions, or should everyone be free to pursue their own path regardless of how it affects their relatives? Because what's happening between Jey and Jimmy Uso isn't just about two wrestlers having creative differences. It's about the fundamental conflict between family loyalty and personal ambition, between maintaining tradition and pursuing evolution, between protecting relationships and chasing dreams. There's no easy answer to these questions, and that's why this situation is so compelling and so heartbreaking to watch unfold. The USO brothers are forcing everyone to confront uncomfortable truths about how family dynamics can both elevate and limit careers in professional wrestling, and how the bonds that make tag teams special can also become chains that prevent individual growth. One thing is certain: the Usos as we knew them are finished, regardless of whether WWE officially breaks them up or not. The brotherhood that made them special has been irreparably damaged by accusations, resentment, and betrayal. What happens next will determine whether Jey Uso proves he can be the single star he believes he's always been, whether Jimmy can find success on his own terms, and whether two brothers can ever repair a relationship that has been shattered by competing ambitions and painful truths. The bloodline's legacy will never be the same, and the Anoa'i family just learned that sometimes the greatest threats to family unity don't come from outside enemies, they come from the unresolved conflicts and suppressed resentments that fester between the people who are supposed to love each other most.